Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Retro Pop Planet and welcome back to another filming location video. This time we're doing a movie which I don't hear a lot of people talking about anymore, and that is 1989's Chances Are, and it features a number of huge Hollywood actors of the day. One of the weird things about this movie is that the soundtrack has a few legit hits on it, including a song from Peter Cetera and Cher, which was the #1 song in America. And this is the era of banger soundtracks. And from what I can tell, they never released a soundtrack for this movie. I have no idea why. Maybe it was copyright stuff. I have to think not releasing a soundtrack for a movie like this probably hindered its chances for success, but who am I to say? The movie was largely shot on location in Culver City, California, which are now the Sony studios, Georgetown, Washington, D.C., and Maryland. One of the locations that we traveled to in the movie is the old Smithsonian Castle. Now, from what I can tell, it's under a 5-year restoration project. And the more that I've done research after recording the actual video and even editing the video, I've discovered that some of the locations, including the church scene in the very beginning of the movie, might have actually been filmed on location at that old Smithsonian Castle. And this is one of the more fun movies that I've had a chance to actually go and explore locations for. The weather was beautiful when I was recording this in the late fall of 2024, and I just really had a fun time with this one. So I think you will as well. So without further ado, let's get on to the filming locations for 1989's Chances Are.
The movie begins with slow rolling credits backed by Johnny Mathis's Chances Are. A slow pan of Corinne and Louis' wedding invitation reveals the location as the All Saints Church on Maiden Lane in Middleburg, Virginia. Unfortunately, there isn't an All Saints Church nor a Maiden Lane in Middleburg. An exhaustive search for this location led me to a deep dive into pipe organs and all the various parts of churches, including rood screens. This location is too expansive to be a set, so has to be a real location. I searched the pipe organ database for churches in Maryland, DC, Virginia, and California to no success. If you recognize this location, please let me know. Sometime later, Corinne and Louis revealed to best friend Philip that they're having a baby. The home as depicted in the film is a real location in Georgetown. However, I suspect that most of the interior scenes and the garden scenes were filmed on a soundstage.
And it doesn't look like they have a backyard, but they do have a side yard. And I'm pretty sure this is not what was used in the movie. It definitely looks like a set.
We see a lot of this location throughout the movie. The home was built in 1900, and the last Zillow listing was in 1996, so I can't find any actual interior photos.
Good time. Bye. Bye.
This section of P Street still has its old trolley tracks.
The shop scene where Louis purchases the anniversary gift is another real location in Georgetown, but I can't find enough exterior identification to pinpoint the exact address. Louis is a young district attorney in Washington and has a tense exchange with Judge Fenwick. I read that the courthouse scenes were filmed in Rockville, Maryland.
We're now in Rockville, Maryland at the courthouse square, right in front of the old red brick courthouse. According to everything I've seen online, this is actually where all of the courthouse scenes were filmed in the movie. Looking at this place though, I don't know if it's open, if we're gonna be able to see anything, but I'll show you the outside of the building, and if we can't go inside, just know that it was filmed here. So this building's been here since 1891. Now, I'm assuming they filmed here because filming inside the district would have been too challenging. This probably was a little bit more accessible for a production crew.
Back in his office, Louis receives a tip from Philip about an exchange on Roosevelt Island. Have you ever seen anyone salt an egg like this? Anyway, he travels to Roosevelt Island to photograph the encounter between the judge and another man.
I'm now at Theodore Roosevelt Island. It's a national park and it's right off the GW Parkway. If you're coming here, get here probably during the week. There's only like 90 spots, and the only other way to get here is through the Mount Vernon bike trail. But this is the scene where the corruption with the judge takes place, and it's a really great view with Georgetown and the Georgetown University in the distance. I'm going to show you a little bit of the island that you actually don't get to see in the movie. They only show the beachfront scene. You can only get here by taking the bridge across to the island. Folks primarily come out here for recreation. There's a lot of trails. People will run through here, they'll hike through here, they'll nature watch through here. But I think our trip is going to be pretty quick because judging by the location and the vista, we only have a little ways down this trail to walk and then we'll be on to the next location. So things took a bit of a turn. There's a bunch of downed trees for the path where I need to go to. I'm assuming this is still a path. Yeah. I did a fair bit of exploring around, and this is the only location where it could have been filmed. We've got the correct viewpoint here. We've got the beach, the sand. You can't really see it obviously because of all the leaves, but that first shot, there are some brambles, but this is where the judge is getting a little corrupt. And then I believe this is a trail that he's walking up when he's getting ready to spy on the judge. So he's standing somewhere around here, and I would imagine if he was wearing a fancy suit, he was gonna get all this muck on him and having traipsed through the woods. Let's be honest, if he was gonna go fully corrupt, there would have been easier places to get to that would not have cost this much walking. He would have been very obvious. Anybody walking through here with a suit, come on. And of course, this is all Georgetown. All of this is Georgetown. M Street runs all through here. And there's Georgetown University, Ely Hall, which is the building right here, and the Key Bridge. All are visible in that scene.
Louis pulls up for his anniversary date with Corinne. Most of the location hunters have this pegged as M Street in Georgetown, but it's not. It's still in Georgetown, but on Wisconsin Avenue.
Everything I've seen online says that the scene where he was hit by a car took place on M Street in Georgetown. I stopped the footage and rewound it and zoomed in, and that's wrong because it was actually filmed here on Wisconsin Avenue at N Street. But the outline of these buildings are clear, and you can kind of see Martin's Tavern, although it's a little bit hazy. And then he darts across the street and gets run over by a car. And this is where he dies, right here. Looking at him coming across the street through this direction. And again, he was hit somewhere right around here.
The restaurant was at 1303 Wisconsin, and Corinne was sitting in this window. All of the heaven scenes were shot on location, and that's where the majority of the movie budget was spent. Louis successfully pleads his case and returns to Earth in Alex's body. We land at Yale University. Things get weird because Alex meets a girl in the library named Miranda, who is technically his daughter. After a bit of flirting, we learn that Alex is graduating the next day, while Miranda is still an undergrad. I've pegged this location as the inside of the Smithsonian Castle. We'll travel here later, but here's a very old photo taken from inside this same room. Note the columns and window arches in the background. We've obviously advanced in time around 20 years, and Corinne has a well-established job at the Smithsonian Castle. We see her leaving work after taking a call from Miranda.
So in the movie, Corinne is either a historian or an archaeologist working in the Smithsonian. I did read that they filmed all of those office scenes inside here. Unfortunately, we can't get in there for the foreseeable future. But after the movie, Sybil Shepherd was actually awarded some sort of honor by the Smithsonian for, I don't know, promotion of the historical sciences. The castle is actually closed for renovation. I don't really know when they plan to reopen it. Now, the cool thing about this garden is, as you can see here, it was only about 1.5 years old when they started filming the movie. So this garden was very, very new. There's a scene where Corinne is leaving work one day and she drives off. She would have been parked along the road here. This is Independence Avenue. You can actually park here, and her place of business is the Smithsonian, the old castle. And then in that scene, you see her drive off this direction down Independence, and you can see that archway in the background.
Upon graduation, Alex heads for Washington to try and get an interview as a journalist with the Washington Post. When he arrives into town, he parks outside of the US Capitol and camps overnight in his car.
When Alex first arrives in DC, he camps out, and behind his car you can actually see the spire of the Capitol Dome. I've worked it out that he's somewhere here along Constitution Avenue, which good luck doing that today, especially with security down here. But he's somewhere along this area. You really can't line that up anymore because a lot of those trees are gone. The roads have been completely rerouted. You can see the dome behind him of the US Capitol. And anytime you film a movie in DC, it's probably like some kind of Hollywood unwritten law that you have to show every single monument just so they know, yes, you actually did film here on location. I mean, I suppose he could have parked here. I think his windows would have been wrapped on pretty quickly, especially since you see him shaving in his car, and it's obvious that he's kind of a vagrant and sleeping in it.
Finding a wacky way to gain entry into the Washington Post, Alex comes into contact with Philip. The news office interiors could be a combination of soundstage shots combined with an actual office building in Culver City, California. We do get a quick establishing shot of the actual Washington Post building on K Street.
Right behind me is the Washington Post. This is where Alex is trying to get a job. I have no reason to believe that it wasn't filmed here. However, we're not going to be able to get inside. You have to have a badge. I would imagine a lot of what was filmed inside, including the newsroom, looks completely different than it did back then. But this is the Washington Post.
I had to keep clipping my audio because of all the traffic. K Street is one of the busiest roads in DC because a lot of financial firms and lobbyists work in this section of the city. Considering how busy the newsroom is on a daily basis is why I think it was now filmed in Culver City, dressed to look like the Post.
If you're looking for an address, this is 1301 K Street Northwest.
Philip really takes a shine to Alex. Recognizing he has nowhere to stay, he invites him over to Corinne's house for dinner. Did they just happen to be in Georgetown? Because we find out later that Philip lives on the opposite side of town, and the Washington Post office is miles from here.
I believe there's only 2 streets in Georgetown that still have the original trolley car tracks. Now, there is no longer a trolley car system in Georgetown, but those 2 streets are P and O, and most of the action in the movie actually takes place on both of those streets, and they are cobblestone. They are also one way, which probably made it pretty complicated for the actual production team. So as they're driving through the streets of Georgetown, it's pretty obvious that Robert Downey Jr. is actually the one doing the driving. So I would imagine there's an actual camera set up inside the car, as well as some street camera work going on as well. So they're heading towards us here on O Street, and you can see this archway actually behind them, and then they take a left and head up off that direction. Do you see anything implausible about that scene? Well, as you can tell, 34th Street is actually one way. So unless the roads have changed, they would have been turning into oncoming traffic.
They pull up in front of the house and we get our first aha moment with Alex, possibly remembering that he's been here before.
So I'm here obviously a couple months later, but one of the funny things that I've always noticed about this movie is how fake the vines are. They all look uniform in color, and it's obvious that they're plastic. And you can see there's no vines here. Just get a kick out of that.
Heaven and earth collide inside the house where the entire gang is back together, albeit unknowingly. For Alex and Miranda, mere days. But for the rest of the group, it's at least 20 years. It doesn't take long for Miranda and Alex to share a moment with Louis looking on. I told you it gets weird. Throughout the evening, Alex has a series of unnerving flashbacks to his former life, completely overwhelmed by his emotions. I really appreciate Robert Downey Jr.'s physical comedy in this scene. In just 2 years, he would be nominated for an Academy Award for his role as Charlie Chaplin for the same type of vaudevillian performance.
And when he comes down and he's beating up the light post, it probably was fake. The only thing here is actually a street sign. There is no light post. That was probably added by production, but it's kind of ridiculous.
Alex is invited to stay over at the house and goes into complete creeper mode, having begun to realize that he's actually Louis resurrected here on Earth, even following Corinne to her job.
So in this scene, Alex goes to visit Corinne at her place of work, which is the old Smithsonian Castle, and he walks through the Enid Hauptgarten, which you actually don't really get to see a whole lot. But you do see this door. It's very clear in that shot. Basically, he's walking towards the camera this direction, and then he walks up there and opens that door. It's locked to us. All right, let's walk the same walk that Robert Downey Jr. makes in the movie. He's walking kind of fast, so it would have been about like this. Then he reaches out his hand to open the door.
Hi.
In that scene, you can see his hand's actually way lower, so I don't know if he's a lot shorter than I am. But there you go.
Inside, he drops the truth bomb on a stunned Corinne that he's actually Louis reincarnate. He leaves Corinne completely dumbfounded as he goes to reveal himself to Philip.
In the movie, Alex goes to visit the home of Philip Train, who is a reporter at the Washington Post. This location gave me quite a bit of grief. I had to turn to Google Street View, and I took the little yellow man and I literally just walked around behind the Capitol, which you can see in that scene. I was able to match up some of the things, and I think actually this scene was a little bit of studio trickery, meaning that they filmed the car pulling up in one location, which I think is the 500 block, because it looks like the slanted tree is still there. Or it could be in this other section here where the fence is no longer there. Part of the railing of the house matches up, but not much else does. So I do believe that either the house was filmed in a different location, somewhere around here on Capitol Street, or it was filmed in Georgetown, made to look like it was East Capitol Street.
After meeting with Philip, he goes to an occult bookstore. It looks like a cobblestone street, so this is probably a location on either P or O streets in Georgetown, but were not given much to work with as an identifier. In the next noteworthy scene, the entire crew is preparing for a gala, complete with a big band. Unfortunately, we never get a real establishing shot. Corinne is showing off the First Lady's exhibit, which is a real collection of First Lady dresses, but that's at the National Museum of American History. I have searched many ballrooms, but have come up empty. This was either filmed at Culver Studios, a nondescript hotel ballroom, or a redressed Smithsonian castle. After several further exchanges between Alex, Miranda, and Corinne, and rebuffed advances, Corinne finally gives in and spends the day with Alex. They take Louis' old VW Bug.
I had a little trouble at first finding the VW scene, and that's because the garage alleyway area looks a lot different than it did in the movie, and they're actually doing some construction work on one of the other garages, and the alleyway has actually been repaved, but there are a couple indicators of this is where the VW Bug comes out, and they take a right on 34th Street, which again, remember earlier, they're actually taking a left on 34th Street. In this scene, they're taking a right on 34th Street. The Rod Stewart song, Forever Young, starts playing. So the VW Bug proceeds down here, and then they shoot off down here on the right, that direction. And you can see that it looks like at the time of filming, maybe this has always been cobblestone, but there was a lot of grass that had grown up around here. So I thought it might have been filmed somewhere other than Georgetown. But the garages are here. I'm gonna go up there in a minute and see if there is actually a garage where the VW could have come out of. But the telltale sign actually was this unique curved iron stairwell on this building. And even though this is undergoing reconstruction, you can see these two windows in the movie. So let's walk up here and see if there is actually a garage. And I don't see any private drive signs, so I think we're good. So this house that's undergoing renovation, looks like it just has like a little private strip. But what we're seeking is right here, and wow, check it out. How lucky do we get that the actual garage is open? So this is where the VW Bug was parked. Wow, this is cool. Check in. This is actually the backside of the house. You know, one of the things that I absolutely get a kick out of when I'm doing these filming locations is sometimes people ask me what I'm doing, especially if I'm talking and filming something random and like a garage. And I told the person walking through here, there was a scene here with Robert Downey Jr. and Sybil Shepherd. However, I don't know if they really were up and down here. I don't know if that was actually them driving off the street, but it's still pretty cool. And the person had no idea. And she said, "Oh, wow, I remember that movie. I need to go back and watch it." So I thought that was pretty fun.
They end up at historic Glen Echo Park in Maryland.
The one thing that I will note about this movie, unlike St. Elmo's Fire, which geographically is a little all over the place, they do a pretty good job of going in the direction and coming from directions of places of scenes where they have just been or are planning on driving to. So for that part, I really give credit to the producers of keeping a sense of continuity, whereas if you've seen my St. Elmo's Fire video, it's all over the place. All right, I just rolled up to the parking lot of Glen Echo Park. This is where they filmed Alex and Corinne's hot date. when they leave in the VW Bug, they actually come here. This is actually my first time here. We are in Maryland, and there's a lot of history here. This park itself has a lot of historical significance, and I might actually have to come back here and do some separate videos. But let's go see where they actually shot the movie. All right, well, this place is super interesting, and because it's been so long, I'm actually having a little bit of difficulty lining up a few of those shots. I'm gonna keep looking. There are some things though that I do know exactly where they were filmed, but check this out here behind me. So this is about where they're walking. They're strolling arm in arm this direction. Some of those old lights are no longer there. The doors and windows have been replaced. And then they get to the end of the road down here. Let's see if we can make a phone call to 1989. What a relic. Thanks. It's hard to tell for certain, but I believe that the hot dog stand and the t-shirt vendor were located like right here, because you can see this in the background.
The vendor is definitely checking out her butt.
It's all been repainted. There's new windows, there's new doors, and there's a curb here now, whereas it used to be dirt. But this looks right. So if you add their hot dog cart like right there, then that to me looks like the right location. Okay, so the carousel scene was filmed here right behind me. Now, this is off season. The carousel closed a couple months ago. Everything actually looks pretty much the same. There's some different paint schemes, but the way the picnic tables are lined up looks the same. Right, the camera would have been positioned right about where I'm standing, because you can actually see this tree and this tree in frame. And in that scene, Alex and Corinne are actually walking towards the carousel. I think right about here is where they stop and look inside. And we're walking towards it now. These would have been open. You can see clearly in the movie they're actually open. These are big doors, and they're leaning on a railing. And the camera's actually positioned inside looking towards where I'm standing.
I just realized during editing that this is the exact same horse the little girl is riding in the movie.
So it is a dance hall now, but just judging from the picture, I'm assuming that when this building was originally conceived as an amusement park, this was the bumper car room, and it makes sense because that's exactly what it looks like. But this is where Alex and Corinne dance. Because this is on the National Historic Registrar, you can guarantee that this is the exact same floor that they would have danced on. And I can't go inside, but I can put my camera over top, and you can actually see the carousel in the background of those scenes. So I went to the other side of the structure, and I'll zoom in. They were dancing somewhere over in this area. And I can't get the exact shot because, again, this is closed. Something not visible in the movie, but how cool is this Art Deco? This is the actual main entrance from the original amusement park. Still has the partial trolley tracks in place, but this is the real star of the show. The neon light in Art Deco facing the road. So cool. Miranda is walking along the reflecting pool here with the Washington Monument in the background, heading towards the Lincoln Memorial. Now we get a scene where Alex and Corinne are driving by after their day at Glen Echo Park in the VW, and it's implied that they could conceivably see them driving. That would not be the case. We're actually down here below the monument. The road used to go in front of the Lincoln Memorial, and it would have gone in front of the Lincoln Memorial at that time period. It's a stretch on a busy day with all the traffic that you're actually going to see them driving by. Here, I'll show you. I'm going to walk in this direction. There's the Lincoln Memorial, and the road used to run right in front. They're doing a ton of construction here, but in reality, when they're coming across the Memorial Bridge, that's actually way up there, which is where we're heading now. Everybody always asks how deep the reflecting pool is, and it's very shallow. Of course, they filmed a number of movies here, including Forrest Gump and The Firm with Tom Cruise. Forrest Gump, I believe, was filmed somewhere over here. When I was a kid and we first moved here, you see where those barriers are. That actually used to be the road. This actually, you could drive around here. Traffic was always a nightmare, and it's really more pedestrian friendly now. But it's implied in the movie that they actually whiz around here after coming off the bridge. And as far as geography goes, that actually makes a lot of sense, because they would head back up that direction back to Georgetown. So here's Memorial Bridge. On the other side of the bridge, on the other side of the Potomac, is actually the Arlington National Cemetery. Alex and Corinne are coming across it this direction, driving into the district. And I believe the camera was probably set up somewhere over here. That way they could pan this direction. And I'll show you, we'll try to match it up like the movie. So this is the Valor statue, and this is Sacrifice. You see them come across in front of the Sacrifice, and then the camera just pans and follows them around, and you see that shot of the Lincoln Memorial. And there's a lot of trees now. It's been almost 40 years. And then they would zip around in front, implying that there was a possibility that Miranda could see them.
Corinne and Alex sneak back into the house from the front door, but as we saw earlier, they could have gone through the back entryway from the garage.
All right, 3410 P Street. This is the home, or the exterior at least, that was used in the movie. It's still a very big home, regardless.
I forgot to mention this earlier, but one of the reasons I'm positive they filmed on a soundstage is because aircraft noise in Georgetown is relentless, from planes traveling to and from National Airport. As we near the end of the movie, there are back-to-back interior shots as the plot lines intermingle in a very bizarre fashion. Back at the courthouse in Rockville, we learn that the judge Miranda is clerking for is none other than Judge Fenwick. After an outlandish exchange in the courtroom between Alex and the judge and a tussle with security, Alex takes a tumble down some stairs. But at this point, everyone is calling him Louis.
So yeah, it is closed. I did take a photo through that window. Believe it or not, I can't see over that door. That door is really tall, so I had to hold the camera up and take a photo. It doesn't look like the movie. I'm gonna walk around here a little bit more and see if I can find anything that looks like it would have been filmed here. Well, I think we're striking out on this one, guys. I just came out of the gray courthouse building, and there's nothing to see here. This is an actual functioning court area, so I'm assuming they filmed over there.
Here's a picture of the one stairwell inside. It kind of looks like the one Alex tumbles down, but it's not.
We're gonna just put a wrap on that, and I got a notification that my parking expires in 15 minutes, so we're gonna get out of here.
The fall knocks Louis back out of Alex. Unfortunately, he's still dead, and we don't see him again. Newspaper headlines run with stories about the corrupt judge. Alex and Miranda are an item, and Corinne marries Philip. The wedding scene was definitely filmed in Culver City at one of the numerous lakes. That's a eucalyptus tree, and they don't grow on the East Coast. We then file out of the theater with our bucket of stale popcorn while the smash hit After All by Peter Cetera and Cher fills the air.
All right, guys, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Please give it some love. I did a lot of walking for this one. I probably should have rented one of those scooter things, but I was just adamant that I was gonna walk. And in one day, I think I walked like 10 miles. And I thought nobody remembered this movie until I did a test upload, and it actually got blocked by YouTube. So I've had to edit this one as well. And it's taking an extraordinary amount of time for a movie that no one seems to talk about anymore. So if you want to start up a conversation, please leave a comment in the comment box. Please feel free to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.